another page that I'm going to work on to share with you. I'm flicking through my Everyday Life album, which is a great size. It's 6 by 8, and this particular one is the sea glass one. And I'm going to use some pages from my Crush watercolour page with this, and a photo of my daughter with one of our kittens. So these watercolour papers are a really nice porous and thick page, and they have a dye resist type thing. So as you'll see as I go over with some of the watercolour paints using the flat brush, you can sort of see it popping up, and at the end of this video you will be able to see a closer up shot of this and see some of the dye resist effect a bit more. But you can see that the brush has a nice rough effect on the paper as I sort of spread it across. I don't want to go right to the edges, I want it to have an element of watercolour around it. So brushing that all around, using that flat brush, spreading it out, adding a bit more water at times just to get that spread nice and even, but not too even because I wanted it to look a little bit messy. So I'm going to use some of the Prickly Pear papers. Surprising that I have some left over because I have enjoyed using these papers so much, and I'm going to tuck the papers in behind this photo of my daughter. So just choosing pieces, playing around with them, layering up, looking where it works, where it fits, to try and not detract from the photo but add interest to it. Now I chose this picture and decided to create this page as my daughter was at a teenage girls camp that I was privileged to be a leader at in the last week of our school holidays, and I wanted to sort of put the message on the page that beauty's not in your outward appearance, it's not just the way you look, it's not the number of likes that you get on social media, but it's actually about who you are as a person and the inner beauty coming out and letting that shine through. I'm also working in this size page because I have decided to sign up for a 100-day creativity type challenge on the Scrap Girls Facebook page, where the idea is to do something creative for 100 days, and it's going to be starting on August the 1st along with the launch of our new annual Inspirations, which isn't tied in, it just happens to be coincidental. And I am looking forward to creating something in this size page every day, whether it might be just choosing the photos or getting some printed ready to create onto the next day. That's okay, just something to do with this album and keeping it, this size album, and keeping it really simple. So these compliments have some, the new compliments that will be coming out, the annual Inspirations, have some beautiful gold pieces. So this is sort of a chipboard type piece, and I'm playing around with the hearts, and I end up not actually using them apart from the hearts along the top, which I do staple onto the page. These new stamps will be coming out, the annual Inspirations, and they are called Splash of Colour. They're a fabulous way to have a bit more of a controlled watercolour look on your pages. So I'm using the rounder splash, and I'm going to use some sea glass ink to add this onto the base of my page. Now sea glass is the current colour with close to my heart, and next year, or not, I shouldn't say next year, in the next annual Inspirations that's coming out, there is a new colour which you will have a bit of a look at later on as I create this page. So I use the sea glass, just the greens and the blues, kind of my colours at the moment, mixing them up a little bit, and I think that's why I liked the Prickly Pear so much, because they are kind of my colours. So popping the stamps away, ready to use another time. We were given these as consultants at the annual Inspirations launch in Auckland, so it's been great to make good use of them. Now this piece here is going to become my journaling down the bottom, and I'm going to sort of fishtail or banner that down the bottom, so it sort of is not the oblongs or the squares that are on the rest of the page, just to add a little bit of variation, a little bit of difference. So getting these photos stuck down and stuck together, just keeping those layers and keeping it the way it was. The photo wasn't really standing out enough, so I just sort of had a play around in my cupboard and had a look at what was in there, and found some of our white glitter paper and just sort of tried the photo on it and it looked pretty good. It helped the photos stand out, and it just sort of gave it a little bit more of a edge, as well as because this paper is a little bit thicker, it lifted it up a little bit more from the rest of the page. So sticking each of these layers down onto the pieces of paper, working out where they're going to go, general rough guide using the Tombow adhesive. We have some new adhesives coming out in the new annual inspirations, and so it'll be interesting to see how these go and what these work like. I've quite liked the Tombow. It has a nice even application when it's going on, and it seems to hold really well. So I decided that the yellow zip strip didn't really add to the layers that I was using, and so took that off before sticking part of the paper down onto there. Now the other thing, I did decide to use the stapler here, and I did end up deciding that actually I'm going to put that zip strip in and just add it in as a different piece in a different spot to the rest of that paper. So adding in these hearts, and I decided not to use the other chipboard hearts at this point. They just didn't seem to really add to it. So playing with the position of the photo on the page, thinking about white space, thinking about where her eyes are looking, because I don't want it to stop you. I don't want it to lead you off the page. So thinking about positions of the people in your photographs is often a good way of thinking about where they'll go on the page. So I'm curling up the corners, roughing up the edges, trying to add a little bit of a distressed or softer look around the edges of this photograph. So there's a little bit of tearing involved here, as well as the folding up before sticking it all down. And the fishtail banner needs to go under the photograph, so sticking that down first. I used 3 nice generous thick layers of the adhesive on here, and then stapled the hearts on the top. So having a look and a bit of a think about what I will create onto here next. And I decided that I will use some of the new stamps Beautiful You. Now these involve 3 different layers of stamping. So I used a lighter pink down the bottom, and then slowly got darker as I moved towards the top. And so the first layer that I am stamping here is actually Bashful. Now this is going to be the new colour that you will see with Close to My Heart in the 2017 to 2018 annual inspirations. There's some gorgeous glitter paper coming in this, as well as the double-sided cardstock that's a new feature to what we'll be bringing out starting on the 1st of August. And so there's the ink, the glitter cardstock, and there's also a Bashful album, a Bashful 6x8 Everyday Life album that you will be able to purchase. Nice soft colour. It works really well with the sea glass, so if you haven't got your sea glass yet, be a great time to get it, because these colours will work really nicely together. So with this stamp set, because you have to line up the 3 different layers of the stamp, it's a good idea to use a permanent marker to put a dot where the bottom or the top, if that's what you choose, of the stamp is. So when you line them up, you know where the bottom is, so you're going to be able to put each one at the bottom of the stamp. It's a trick that one of the ladies at the annual inspirations shared with us, just so that because the rose can look a bit funny if the darker colours are sort of inked in the wrong spots. The petals might not look like they quite where they should be. So the leaves that I also used here, I used a lighter green and then a darker green for the veins on top. So playing around with these and getting them stamped down. We did use these at the annual inspirations launch as well, but this is probably the first time I've actually had them out for a bit of a play with them at home. So just cutting around these generally. I'm going to use the thin cuts that came with this stamp set to put them through the Cuttlebug. So I was just having a wee look at the colours and making sure that is going to work with the page I've done, sandwiching up the shapes with the die cut, the metal piece, and I'm using a post-it note to line them up to make sure they're in the correct place, just because I didn't want it to move around in the Cuttlebug too much, and I don't have a magnetic cutting mat yet, or I might not ever, but I don't have the magnetic one, so using the post-it note, or you could use washi or something just to keep the die lined up with the stamps, is a possible way for you to go forward. So in the Beautiful You stamp set, there is also the words Beautiful You, so I decided to stamp this, and this could be forming the title of this page. And you'll see that I did play around with this. I'm using the black archival type ink here. The new Annual Inspirations has a variety of greys, including a charcoal that I think would have been fabulous on this page, in the sense that it's not such a huge contrast with the black and white as a charcoal and white would be. So I'm going to fussy, well, you can't see me out the corner here, I'm just fussy cutting around the Beautiful You words just to try and get these cut out. Now we can see what I'm doing there, and you'll see later on that I decide to take off the U part of this stamp and just use the word Beautiful as the title of the page. So getting that Beautiful all cut out, ready to put onto the page, and having a look at what that looks like, and happy with that. So these are the roses that have gone through, the leaves also went through, and so I'm just positioning these across the page and working out sort of generally where I'm going to want them, sticking with the idea of threes. I did try and put the third leaf in, but it didn't really work, so I just settled for the 3 roses instead. And I stuck each of these down. The 2 to the left I just put down normally, whereas the one on the rose on the right, I decided to use some of our foam tape, 3D tape. There is going to be some dots that are coming out in the Annual Inspiration, so it'll be interesting to see the effect that they can have on different layers on a page like this. And now my video and my camera decided it was a bit full, so I've just got some photos of closer up shots leading into this page, so you'll be able to see here the bashful pearls that are coming in the new Annual Inspirations, and just seeing some of those torn edges and that beautiful watercolour paper in the background. Thanks for watching.